Salutations, incarnations. Welcome to Channel 7. Welcome to welcome to another banger day, another banger hour on Channel 7 as I plant the seeds of greatness in this majestic garden of your attention. I look forward to seeing that which will sprout from it. Yes. Today, we explore an incredible theme, very timely, very contemporary. A theme that occupies the minds of humanity, our interests, our curiosity, all occupied by this question as we reach a high point in the technological realms, one of many high points. Our information technology high point has been reached, and it begins to dawn upon us that the vistas of development will continue on unimaginable ways. I mean, technology and humanity has not really progressed very much prior to 1700s, okay? It was pretty much more or less the same. Innovations were rare and few but far between. From the 1700s until about the 1900s, the early 20th century, we basically focused on foundation technologies, steam engines, telegraph, printing presses, all these kinds of things, developing larger scale, more widespread global access, foundational infrastructure for our civilizations. And about the last 100 years, since about 1900, with the advent of electricity and the discovery of that, it heralded an entirely new era. And physics, advanced physics and applied physics, as in electricity and chemistry, have undertaken significant and serious leaps. So much so that in the last 50 years, since the advent of information technology, let's call it 70 years, first computers back in the 1950s, the expansion, the acceleration of our technological expertise and prowess is unprecedented. It has just gone in an asymptotic curve almost, from this gradual hundreds of years, and suddenly, phew, it's gone right up the curve. And here we are, 2026, standing at the point where we have surrounded ourselves with unimaginably complex technology. Every few years, what is it they said? That every few years, the information output and or ability to digest capacity of the human race doubles. It took 1,000 years for that to happen, from 800 AD to 1800 AD. Okay, and now it's happening every few years. So the mind is already overwhelmed by this. So we're talking technology here because the theme for today is the highest technology on this planet. A staggering concept, considering what we are surrounded with and what interests us and what looms ahead, what fuels our curiosity about what lies ahead. Well, today we shall explore all of these in ways that you may not expect, but I hope in ways that evidence themselves as understandable and inspiring, most of all. So, 2026, looking forward, we go, where to from here? What will technology look like in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years? What will technology look like in 75 years from now? This question, we can barely look forward 10 years to see what AI is going to do with everything. Already with this understanding of how much it's revolutionizing our understanding of the world, we have to really, looking at the year 2100, beginning of the 22nd century, it is virtually unimaginable the level of technology we will be harnessing. But I am here today to tell you, to share with you a secret. The secret understood by few human beings in times past, but a secret nevertheless that must be shared. The 22nd century technology is here now. It is already here. What a staggering statement, you might say. Well, in the course of this next hour, I am going to show you exactly what this technology is so that you too will see what I see. Welcome to my mountaintop, today's perspective, where we look out upon the wide world from a high point and see far into the future, see far into the present. We're going to bring these two together. So, current technology, which I call externalized technology, that which we have thought up and dreamed into being outside of us, which serves us. This technology, especially the information technology, which I'm going to use because it's a perfect analogy for the highest technology on this planet that I will be describing to you. Information technology, which uses computers, is based on two components. The software, which is ideas turned into code, and hardware. And code is like an operating system, and the hardware, which are the devices used to run this code, to perform applications. Okay? And as we see, this evolution has gone extremely fast, very slow at the beginning, but every decade, every 10 years, down to 5, every 2, every 6 months, technology evolves incredibly fast. Why does this and how does this evolve? So, two reasons. The current most advanced forms of technology external to us today are comprised of software and hardware. Now, when software reaches a certain level of sophistication, hardware is developed to be able to harness that software and make it expressive, give it manifestation, give it application in the world. Right? Now, because of human innovation and evolution always occurring, the software itself always is getting better, it's getting improved, it's making more sophisticated, greater applications, so a wider focus, more penetrative applications, deeper. So it's become quite extraordinary. As it does so, the hardware serving the previous versions of the software suddenly becomes obsolete. Yeah, like magnetic tapes giving way to cassette tapes, giving ways to mini discs, giving ways to CDs, giving ways to DVDs, giving ways to data on drives. All this hardware evolving as a result of expanding and ever more sophisticated software. So this is the race. And externally to us in the world, the economics of the world engine are built on advancing software, and at the same time, because software is advancing so very fast, trying to catch up with the hardware we're producing to be able to use that software. Fascinating state of affairs. Now, the technology, I'm going to go back to the 1970s, okay? Where we keep in mind this whole software versus hardware evolution, and that the hardware at some point becomes obsolete as the software evolves and must be discarded and reimagined and rebuilt from scratch in order to hold this. Going back to the 70s. In the 1970s, the first real computer was built that was probably the size of a garage or the size of a giant room in your house. It was this gigantic construct, and its ability was probably about the same, if not less actually, than today's smartphone, okay, which we can hold in the palm of our hand, has probably actually multitudes of computing capacity greater than that first computer. But that first computer was a pioneering moment, for we captured the ability to process information this way, and because it was relatively new and primitive, it was large. See, the universe, as it evolves, it begins large, think dinosaurs here, and begins to progressively, as it advances and improves and evolves, it begins to, improvements mean downsizing. Downsizing means making things more compact, more things fit into the same space. You don't need as much space anymore. Creatures can become more compact, technology can become more compact. So we see from the 1970s, these first computers that were built, staggering, monuments of advancement, in the day, suddenly are laughable in today. And what's happened is that they've become gradually downsized. As they become downsized, and not only become smaller, they become faster, more accurate, more intelligent, more capable, whilst they've been getting smaller. And then we arrive at what we call the optimal form. The form upon which really, of course, ultimately you can't make it much smaller than it is now and keep it practical. Aside from the fact that, and the most optimal form for technology, say for computing technology, let's just call it the laptop. A screen the size that it pleases for the eye to see, a keyboard enough for us to type on. This is, shall we say, close to the final form, although some people might say, no, the final form is obviously all verbal and non-physical, so it'll just be a chip listening, but you'll have to see something, so a screen and everything just gets done verbally and translated, everything's just voice commands. So that will probably be close to the final step of computing. But let's just say, for example, the laptop represents this final form. If you want to manually interface with things and do things, until AI gets good enough to translate voice commands into instantaneous, accurate renditions of your intention, let's say it's really good to have a mouse and a keyboard, okay? This final form has been arrived at. I probably saw the first laptop in production in a shop window in 1988, and I was staggering. I went past it. We'd had computers, and this was the first mobile laptop. It was in a shop window, and it was the size of a suitcase. I forget what brand it was, but it was like, $18,000 or something like this, something staggeringly ridiculous. But it was a transportable, battery-powered laptop computer. Nowadays, we have, the tiny 15-inch do-it-all, do-everything kind of versions. From now on, this external form will no longer improve significantly. What will improve now, because the hardware has kind of reached the point where it's pretty perfect. Now, what will evolve is the software. The software will keep evolving, so the refinements in technology will now become internal, not as easily visible. The computer in 5 years' time will look pretty much like any kind of Mac Air or advanced PC Windows laptop today, but you will never know until you open it up what's going on inside. It might have a quantum chip, still looks the same on the outside. So the externals, past a certain point of evolution, the externals are no longer required to be evolved. Now evolution focuses on the internals. Remember this, because this will be an important point of where we get to later in this talk, where evolution jumps from the external evolution into now internal, more invisible, more subtle, more powerful evolution, internal systems being evolved. So, the 20-second technology that I speak about today, as I said, is already here. It is already now. And what is it? This technology is a technology that, going back to the computers we expressed before, how software and hardware are separate entities evolving parallel but separate to each other. The technology I speak of today is a technology in which the software and the hardware are combined, and the hardware is of such a sophisticated order, unimaginably sophisticated, that the hardware is self-evolving. What does that mean? It means that as the software running this technology evolves itself, and as you can imagine from, it's taking AI as an example, advanced intelligence software begins to understand its limitations and evolve itself. So this technology has an intelligence on board as its software that can increase, evolve, and expand its software engine components. At the same time, as it does this, in parallel to this, slightly slower, for the software must initially create the impulse, the spark of that transformation, that when it begins to enter the system, the software itself, part of its evolutionary capability and the hardware's receptivity, spirit and matter, penetrative receptive, part of that interface is the software's ability to begin to entrain the hardware that is so evolved that it's able to be entrained, to be molded by the software itself. That's how exquisitely this hardware is built. Okay? That it begins to entrain itself and become moldable, and therefore its hardware becomes expanded in order to be able to run the new software upgrade. Okay? Now, this technology, ladies and gentlemen, is sitting in this room. right now. It's sitting in this room, and it's sitting in this room. You guessed it. It is us. We are this technology. We are this unimaginably highly developed software, hardware system. A sentience whose source we are in the process of defining, which my channel here has the purpose to serve and ultimately define so much that it becomes part of our operating system and co-informs the hardware that we are. These bodies of ours, this hardware, is not separate from us. Software and hardware are interconnected. They are not meant to be separate. Spirit is not separate from matter. The mind is not separate from the heart. If it does, it departs. And crisis is the result. We are not crisis. We are design. Let me be daring. We are divine design. Software and self-evolving hardware. Phew, that's us. Where do we go from here? In order to understand what this technology is for, that we are, and to explain how it is and how it has come to be, please refer to my earlier work, which explores the kingdoms. Okay, we're not going to go into this in detail here, but it is a foundation premise for the work that I am about to unfold now. Okay? So, the kingdoms, we are the fourth kingdom, the human kingdom, mineral, vegetable, animal, human. This fourth kingdom is life's perfect external form. Like I said about the computers, 1970s, the whole building down to a smartphone today, the evolution of form, to the laptop, the perfect form of computing, where now all improvements contain themselves internally, not necessarily visible. We are that stage. We are the living stage of this external form of technology we have created. We are at that exact same stage. Okay? We are at the stage where our form, as far as our external evolution goes, has been perfected. The leaps through the kingdom, significant jumps, okay, from form to form as life becomes more expressive, as life has a greater grasp, a greater interpenetration, a permeance of matter, projection into, being able to be held within matter, a greater level of it that the mineral kingdom has to actually leap into the myriad greater sophistication of the plant kingdom and its ability to just respond to light in a way that it can grow and change under that vibration of sun's light, which minerals do not do. They just get warm and get cold. They just change temperature. Plants grow under this light. That responsiveness is gigantic. Another leap from the second kingdom to the third, where another whole level of organization of life become infinitely more complex. The allowance of mobility, suddenly life forms become mobile. They gain the endocrine systems, which give basic instincts become available. We roam, we have basic nurturing concepts, the animal kingdom, the beauty and diversity of it. And yet another leap, almost unimaginable leap from the animal kingdom to the human kingdom, even though, let's face it, we are 98% animal or 97% animal, but that 1 to 3% is the evolutionary key. Remember, it's on the inside now that it happens. But the last significant jump in external appearances of evolution has happened between the third and fourth kingdom. We can see it in the apes, closest to us. Still third kingdom, and yet, obviously in their evolution, semblance of ourselves back in history, still living today. This jump from them to us, they have very basic human functions, the beautiful apes. They can draw and design, and they have certain basic intelligence, because the animal kingdom human kingdom barrier is not a fixed barrier. The animals, especially highly evolved animals like dolphins and chimpanzees, etc., have a small piece of their nature, of their consciousness, that extends upward into the human domain. A small triangle in the square of the human domain is occupied by the higher animals. Domestic animals in particular, in their proximity to human beings, gain higher awareness, higher intelligence. Their proximity to us, the fourth kingdom, helps the third kingdom evolve. So domestic animals have a very privileged status in the world. So this ability to evolve means they don certain attributes, and yet I just want to highlight the immense jump here between the third and the fourth kingdoms. In my house, for example, I might have a cat, okay, and the cat will be in bed and stuff. I will just get up, and with the flick of my switch, or even just a voice command, the lights will come on in the house. The cat has no idea how that happened, and yet it's sitting immediately around it. I'll go to the fridge where food is kept cold, take some out, put some in the stove and make it warm. The cat does not know where its food comes from, what I have to do to get the systems I interface with, to buy the food, to present it to it, to put it in its dish. It has no awareness of any of these factors that determine its immediate environment. Okay, it might be moldy and raining, even though the cat realizes it's dry inside, it doesn't know why. And because of the humidity levels, I'll switch on a dehumidifier. The whole humidity of the room will drop to a more manageable level. The cat will just experience that, but have no knowledge of what is immediately in front of it and why it happens. You get it? The difference in consciousness is gigantic. Look at phones, for example. You put your phone up, and human beings can derive infinite meaning from all the things going on in their phones. For an animal, it is meaningless. It has zero meaning. In fact, most animals don't even respond to screens. Even if you put an image on them, they don't even register it. Okay? That's the jump we're talking here, people. Enormous. Be grateful that you have this form. This advanced form, which is not the end, by the way, and that's the purpose of our talk today, to explore this fourth kingdom, this great kingdom that we have arrived in, that we are exploring, that we are in the process of actually reaching certain frontiers of. This is the glory of this time. We, humanity, the fourth kingdom, have evolved so long now that we are reaching the ceiling of the fourth kingdom. This is the gateway to the highest technology on the planet, which is why we are that, because we are the fourth kingdom, holding the potentials like the living computers. We are the higher software and the hardware able to evolve higher. This is all taking place quietly, subtly around us, sometimes vivid and obvious, but more often than not subtle and quiet. We are emerging out of the fourth kingdom into the fifth. And in order to understand the kingdoms and what we are to do next, we need to do we need to divert briefly into the concept of dimensionality. If we want to understand what the kingdoms are that we are entering into, we need to understand the nature of dimensions. This is very important, and I hope not boring for any, for it is ultimately the metaphysics of creation that we are exploring here. And it's just a treatise, a foundational treatise on everything that is built upon it to lead to awe and wonder, which is our purpose. So multidimensionality, what is this concept of the multiple dimensionality of life? We here basically conceive of ourselves as 3D beings. We are essentially housed in these vehicles made of atomics. The periodic table is our makeup. And so we are, to all intents and purposes, three-dimensional beings. Other dimensions are more imaginary, more theoretical. We have no real active, our sensory organs, the five senses we have, are all linked to 3D. So we have as yet no real proof or understanding of other dimensional states. And yet, as I will show you today, these other dimensional states exist simultaneously with this 3D right here, right now. We're going to dive in, and I'm going to explore with you what these multiple dimensions are and how they can be all present at the same time and in the same place, okay, as each other. Understanding this will give us an understanding of where we are going next and what the preciousness of our life form is, and the fact that it partakes in a multitude of dimensions simultaneously. So in order to understand ourselves and the truth of our makeup beyond 3D, which has limited us over the last few thousand years, limited us significantly, and it's time to break free, people. It's time to spread the energetic wings, and we're about to take flight. and release ourselves from the definitions that have held us bound in 3D. These definitions have been comfortable, they have been comforting, they've been secure and reliable. But ultimately, like a snake shedding its skin, we have begun to outgrow this and the skin is cracking. And a new being is emerging. Now, chrysalis time is upon us, and the chrysalis will birth a new being. And this new being is going to become aware of itself in a multitude of dimensions. As I shall describe today the nature of these dimensions, it will be clear then which parts of our beings participate in these dimensions. Incredibly exciting stuff. I hope you're with me. So let's carry on. Multidimensionality. Let's start at the beginning. 3D. What is the definition of 3D? 3D is basically, as I said in an earlier video, the periodic table, all atoms from hydrogen, 1 proton, 1 electron, all the way through to the heaviest, densest metals at 100 plus electrons and protons. This whole variety from gaseous to liquid to solid forms is all defined by a symbol. All of these atoms have something in common, something that they all share, which I spoke about in the earlier video, which I'll just go into briefly now, and that is the orbital speed of the electrons. So no matter how big the atom is, no matter how many electrons orbit it, all electrons, virtually in all atoms, the electrons orbit the proton at around about 9/10 the speed of light. That's 90% the speed of light. That's over 300,000 kilometers per second. Now, Einstein has theorized and relativity proves that light is the limit. The speed of light, this 300,000+ kilometers per second, is the actual limiting factor in this third dimension. No matter can be brought into an accelerated state to reach the speed of light without matter expanding infinitely in response, which would require infinite energy. So he correctly posited that the third dimension cannot be exited by way of acceleration. To accelerate matter would be to expand it so far that unimaginable energy would be required, which is not possible. So the speed of light, c as it's called, is the ceiling of this third dimension. Okay, and all atoms within the third dimension, no matter what they are, vibrate at the same rate with each other because they vibrate at 9/10 the speed of light. Great. Now let's move into and I'm going to posit and theorize the next dimension above us. It is still material in nature. It's still in its own dimension, has matter, solid or tenuous, dense to itself. It can be interacted with. This dimension is basically another octave above the third. And this octave is determined by a word, one of my favorite words in the world, which I call superluminal. Superluminal is faster than light, people. Super is faster, Superman, better, beyond. Luminal, light. The superluminal speaks of a reality that is a faster than light reality. And now we have the essence of the fourth dimension. Many mystics and seers and searchers have found the name for this for the sake of speaking about it in the future. And now I'd like to call it the astral plane, as this is the physical dense 3D plane. The next plane is the astral 4D plane, the fourth density. This fourth density is characterized by a state of vibration that is greater than light. So let's imagine we're not worried about how we get from under light to greater than light speed. For that transition with our current technology seems impossible, yes? But let's just imagine, let's take a hydrogen atom. And I'm going to speed it up, theoretically, from 0.9 times the speed of light to 1. I'm going to speed it up, 0.92, 0.93, 0.95, 0.97, 0.99. At the speed of light, at just over the speed of light, 1.0001 of light speed, this hydrogen atom disappears from existence. What do you mean it disappears? Nothing can just disappear. You're exactly right. It didn't disappear. It disappeared from our sight. It disappeared from this octave of existence. Yes? it still exists. It still exists in the fourth dimension as a fourth dimensional substance. And like all other atomics in this world, every 3D atomic has a higher dimensional counterpart. Yes, everything in this world that is physical has an astral 4D counterpart vibrating at the superluminal, at faster than light speeds. And these faster than light dimensions can coexist. Just like gas can coexist or water can exist in a sponge. A sponge is called the dense physical. Water is not the solid, it's the liquid. But the liquid can be contained inside the solid. Looking at a sponge and water, you squeeze the sponge, all the water comes out. And yet you don't squeeze the sponge, you would never know there's water inside. Water can be contained inside the matter because the lower vibrational can contain the higher dimensional, okay? So the third dimension contains the fourth dimensional inside it, superimposed around it. Every atom has a superluminal component as its fourth dimensional version, completely connected to it. So all of nature, all atomics have this. And one day we will discover the technology, if we don't, people already inside themselves have discovered this thing. It's called clairvoyance, by the way. But we will also be able to externalize our technology and be able to define that. Ideally, we will do that. We'll be able to prove the existence of higher dimensional reality. But this has not happened yet. So for now, we're going to explore this in a theoretical and yet very practical way. So the fourth dimension, what is the fourth dimension? It is a plane as varied, as infinitely diverse as this physical plane, where we, incarnations, find ourselves living. And the mineral, vegetable, animal, and human kingdoms, all of us populate this wonderful third density. In the fourth density, we have what are called non-incarnate intelligences. These are sentient life forms that are superluminal in nature. Okay? And there are many, many, let me call them denizens, beings whose natural habitat is the astral plane. And the astral plane, like the physical plane, is as varied in density. In the physical plane, we have solids, we have liquids, we have gases, we have ethers. A great level of density, which circumscribes a great diversity of life and existence, yes? So the fourth dimension is no less immense and fantastical. It has grades of density, like here, many octaves of density that each successive octave represents something. Now, let me tell you something. The component of ourselves that is of the fourth dimension, for there is a component of ourselves that is of the fourth dimension. This component of ourselves that is superluminal in nature, that is fourth dimensional matter, light, running at a higher than light speed, is called the human soul. That's right. The human soul is that part of us, that part of you, that part of me, that vibrates continuously at a faster than light rate. This octave of existence, the fourth dimension, which is incredibly diverse, is basically the realm of the human soul. And what is the nature of the soul? As the body is experienced, the nature of the soul is feeling. We get to touch experience with our hands, okay? And we get to feel fourth dimensional reality in third dimensional reality. We get to feel it with our soul. And our soul is a ladder which can vibrate and or emanate from the lowest of vibratory natures, the very lowest, let's call it the deepest red, the lowest dark, to the highest superluminal light. Just as we have here in our 3D, the rainbow spectrum, from red to yellow to orange to green to light blue to dark blue to purple, this ascent of vibrational octaves is paralleled in the astral kingdom, okay? With successively higher domains of light, frequency bandwidths, evidencing higher and higher versions and forms of life and sentience within it. And we, the human soul, have access to all of it. Okay? Exceptional. So, the 40 is the next octave. The human soul is comprised of this field. Let's move on to the next octave above the fourth dimensional, because we're exploring dimensions here as well as kingdoms. And the dimensions will parallel the kingdoms, as we shall soon see. So moving from the fourth dimension where all feeling takes place, and the denizens and beings that live there, non-inorganic beings they are called, will be a topic for our future discourse and our future treaties. Suffice to say that many cultures have known and discovered them and spoken of them as the devas, as the Fae kingdom, as the fairies and sprites, and the gnomes and salamanders and sliffs. These words come from ancient cultures, from Druidic cultures, from indigenous cultures, all reference an animistic spirit alive in nature herself, something spiritual and yet not of this world. These are the denizens of the fourth kingdom, that some human beings becoming sensitized enough or attuned enough, such as indigenous tribes on the planet, have come into contact with. Beautiful. So, the fourth kingdom, in order to close this off, within our being, has its parallel in our physical body. It's not just the soul. Where is the soul attached? How does it find connection to the physical body? Okay, and it's really beautiful because it does so through seven major centers located throughout our body. These 7 centers correspond, not coincidentally, with the 7 energetic chakras of the Indian tradition, these 7 vortexes or energy centers, which are in fact accurate renditions of the vortices that the human soul is comprised of. So the anchoring points of the astral plane and our soul itself and our body is the endocrine system. The 7 main glandular centers in our being are the physical seats of our soul's contact with, immersion into, and intertwined nature with us. We are one. And it is by the means of our endocrine system that this, advanced technology, people, this is taking place. We are already multidimensional beings. Already we hold and operate at the fourth dimension whilst being in the third dimension. Show me any phone that can do this, people. We're going to go further. Let's explore the fifth dimension. This place where we reach the end of the fourth dimension, the top, the ceiling of the human soul, where the highest feeling possible emanates from. Unconditional love operates at the top realms of this plane. We jump into the fifth dimension, fourth dimensional matter at between 1.01 and 1.99, the speed of light. We jump into 2.1 speed of light. Atoms undergoing another leap into another octave, still remaining solid, but compared to the other octave, basically non-visible, non-interactive. There are different octaves. There's still an object here. It's just become more and more tenuous, higher and higher vibratory, unable to interact with the energies below it. Just like an X-ray, so high vibratory, can pass right through a room in which sound and audio waves traveling at much slower rates are traveling the speed of sound. The speed of light travels right through sound. It does not interfere with the sound. So multiple dimensions higher dimensions are constantly broadcasting through this 3D space and not interfering with anything. We are the interference point for higher dimensional reality onto this planet. We are both transmitters and receivers. The 5D, everything above 2, let's call it theorizing 2C, the speed of light 2, between 2 and 3 speed of light, is the mental plane. The plane of mind, the plane of thought, where thoughts down here in 3D, which occur in our minds and our brains, are basically images, compact, significantly complex images that we can attempt to communicate by turning them into words and describing words to others so that the other people may, using those words, build up a similar image in their minds. But ultimately, one of the mind's abilities, because it generates imagery, is telepathy. And telepathy is a means by which an image in one mind is just sent as an image to another mind. And it is received without breakdown, without loss of coherence, without loss of any kind. It's just a perfect communication. So this 5D realm, thoughts up there, down here, just seem like images. And we turn them into words and try and use them. That's how we communicate, thoughts. But actually, so they're very vague and very tenuous. They only occur pretty much up here, right? But in the fifth dimension, just like in the fourth dimension, a feeling is a tangible state of astral matter emanating and producing a luminous, tangible field of energy. So too in the mind sphere, a thought is that which, when it is held, when we create it, when we project this thought into existence, in the very tenuous substance of the mind, a construct is immediately precipitated. The thought, for example, of a vehicle. Let's call it an anti-gravity vehicle, something imaginary. So an anti-gravity, fast, extraordinarily delicious spaceship, a power ship, okay, is imagined. This imagination has an image connected to it, an awareness. That awareness in the 5D has caused the 5D matter to assemble itself and become this construct in 5D, which can be seen in 5D very clearly. So it's actually every thought creates a construct in this ever so tenuous nature of matter. Now, in the fifth dimension, now, as we know, human thought's pretty mad. And there's a lot of people thinking a lot of the time, so it must be a pretty crazy place, the fifth dimension, and it pretty much is. The fifth dimension is the place where all thought in existence, everything that has ever been and will ever be thought, already exists as matter, as 5D matter. Now, the great truths of the universe, those truths which have been seeded and projected by the divine mind into the fifth dimension, are basically the great truths residing there appear as luminous cathedral architectures, which are staggering to behold. For a great truth is in essence beautiful. For truth and beauty are one in their highest form. More on that later, tying into mind and heart and how they are meant to align and what we are meant to become as a result. Art leads the way, showing us true beauty. It's contained in it. True beauty is true. Truth is beautiful. When you encounter a great truth, it is beautiful. And when you see something beautiful, by inferring the reverse, but it must be true. That's how I recognize truth in the world, by the way. My mind has a great ability to discern it, as all our minds are, varying degrees of discernment, of course. But I recognize truth in this world by the degree of beauty that it carries. That's how I look for truth. That sense of aesthetics that I have, which is highly developed, pings in the presence of beauty. I know that I'm witnessing truth. And my mind is interested in finding out what is the truth connected to this beauty. And as it explores that, so we evolve, so I come to grow and expand. So fifth dimension. All thought already exists. The correspondence in our bodies, alongside the endocrine system, a parallel evolution of the fifth dimension, is our nervous system. That's right, people. The nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, and the millions and millions of nerves reaching out through this entire construct. All of this physical matter, the nerve cell, the ganglions of nerves are in essence, in 3D, the correspondent organs of transmission and receiving for 5D reality. Yes, our nervous systems are emitters and receivers of information. 5D. Information is always 5D. Feeling is 4D. Information is 5D. You get it? So here we are already again. these kingdoms of ours start to take shape within us as we explore that we are now, or not just 3D beings, but also 4D beings, also 5D beings. And this is our baseline operating system. We come here, 2026, we can already see ourselves. We have a 3D component. We have a 4D component anchored in our endocrine system. Amazing. We can feel everything, every emotion, every feeling the universe has by nature. We can feel it in our bodies. We can feel it inside this bloodstream of ours. It makes it intensely personal when you can materialize a faster than light dimension. This is magic operating every second of our lives. Then again, the correspondent level of the fifth dimension, the world of telepathy and all thought, is our nervous system. It is all the nerves in our body. And so the brain is actually not the place where any thought is generated. I'd like to tell you that. The brain is actually entirely a radio device, a tuning device. That's all the mind is. It's all the brain is. The physical brain is nothing more than a tuning device. It is where by will and by attention, the attention we have, the focus we have, the interest we have, is the dial tuning, seeking, searching for a new channel. Identifying a channel, searching for it. Any thought we receive is a channel we've already just tuned to, or any words sent to us build an image in our mind. The image gets experienced in 5D, and the mind itself, which immediately tunes to that and suddenly tunes into this thought. And as a result, all corresponding thought, any things, the images linked to this thought by nature of their connectedness, begin to dawn on us also, and our ideas around things begin to expand. This is how it works. We are multidimensional beings in operation. Okay? Extraordinary. We're only going to go a little bit further than the fifth dimension there. We're going to just briefly take a little foray into the sixth dimension, because it is the place in which our evolution now is taking place and will take place and must take place. So I'll just briefly describe what the nature of this is. Yes? Now, the sixth dimension, again, between 3 and 4 speed of light, unimaginably, even beyond thought, is a place beyond thought. No thought exists in 6D. Just as no thought exists also in 4D. But 4D is feeling, 5D is thinking. In 6D, there is no thought. There is something else. We won't call it that. But whatever is there is very, very difficult to describe. Sometimes impossible. But the beings, the humans that have managed to enter it and describe what they find there, we call them poets or geniuses. Okay? Beings who have entered, and I will use the word genius to describe the nature of the sixth dimension briefly to close it off. So we know that is a place of mystery, and yet a place which we as human beings have some capacity to enter. Now, many hundreds of years ago, the great classical composer Bach, who was deaf, I think, he was asked one day by somebody, possibly one of his students, they said, "Master, how do you," because he made these great symphonies, dun, 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 and they moved the whole world. It was this organization of musical energy, of sound, into such coherent forms that they were beautiful and they affected us deeply. They transported us, because we have the architecture of the mind able to receive truth in 5D and beauty in 4D, and the corresponding effect of that in music, which music can catch both of these dimensions and manifest it in physical. We can hear it with our ears, and it moves our fourth and fifth dimensions accordingly. That's why, the mollusk or the rat is not moved by a symphony. Okay? Plants only just begin to respond to it etherically, because sound orders the etherics of the world, and the etherics are things that the plants run off, and so the etherics are affected, so the plant has a response to that. But they do not ever experience it like we can experience it. So when Bach was asked, how does he create this music? He thought for a while. And this was his response. He said, this symphony of mine that goes for 1 hour, this sequence of tones and organizations of rhythms and chords and harmonies that basically unfold over time, I see this. I hear this symphony, all the chords of it playing as one sound. As one sound. And he hears the sound, so beautiful it is. He cannot express this in this third dimension. It is inexpressible here. For his soul and his mind have perceived it. Yes? It is sixth dimensional in nature, by the way. What he does, he takes this chord and he stretches it out in time, because we are here in the third dimension bound by space and time. The astral plane, by the way, very important thing, has spatial component, no time component. In the astral world 4D, the plane of the soul, we have a spatial component, so there is space in the astral realm, and there is no time required to translate in that space. To go from A to B, no time is required. Whereas here, we need time to go from A to B. No matter how fast you go, you still need time to go from A to B. Because the third dimension is defined by the cross. We are crucified on the cross of time and space. Time and space. That's 3D, people. Astral realm, space, no time. Mental realm, no space, no time. It has no spatial component, no time component. That is why in the mental realm, in the higher regions of the mental realm, you can look upon the timeline and see it, time, which we are living upon time. Yesterday was back there and tomorrow is there. We are living as a dot on this line. In the mental realm, in 5D, if you gain that perspective while you are incarnate, you can look upon time as a line, and you can look upon any time you wish. You can look back into the future, and you can look at the now, and you can look into the future, because it's a line. And you can see it from that perspective. Amazing. This is what it means to be a multidimensional being. And the technology that we carry inside that makes us undoubtedly the highest technology on this planet that it has ever seen or ever will see. For we are in advance of the technological evolution that pretends to have reached the ultimate level of advancement and continues to promise to do so. We are already light years ahead, and we will continue to evolve ahead of this if we remember ourselves and we remember everything else's rightful place. So the sixth dimension, Bach said, my symphony is one chord. I stretch it out over time, and suddenly when I slow it down at this infinite speed, I slow it down, I suddenly, dun, 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 dun. Suddenly he can put notes to it, he can have chords, and he can record them, and suddenly when they are complete, like Mozart, they, in a frenzy of download, they feel this and they translate it, and suddenly they've captured it, and suddenly they give it to a music, and they're like, oh, and they can actually produce it, and suddenly the music is born on this planet, and others can experience it. The genius has succeeded in drawing down that which was indescribable into that which is experientiable. This is the nature of the sixth dimension, which we, the fourth kingdom, are about to enter into. This sixth dimension is, people who are at home there are called denizens of the fifth kingdom. That is something for an advanced version of the four kingdoms that I spoke of last week. We will be going into the kingdoms, and this today touches upon the highest technology on the planet, and that we are that, and that we touch upon the sixth dimension. Very high stuff, okay? It's coming back to the present. The kingdoms are defined by dimensional access and their ability to manifest successively high dimensions. Remember, the life wave comes into the mineral, manifests as form and chemistry, jumps into the life wave 2, into the vegetable kingdom, manages to order it, make it more responsive to sunlight and be able to grow and propagate. And then it jumps into the third kingdom, able to be mobile, form coherent groups, working together, mammalian systems, endocrine systems, the basic emotions from the soul world already embodied in matter. And it jumps into the fourth kingdom. Fourth kingdom, we, given the domain of mind. Animals have group souls, by the way. Animals do not have individual souls. Animals have groupings of a soul. Imagine a herd of horses, okay? Each horse does not have an individual soul. This herd of horses, a number of animals, share a group soul, is what it's called. And each animal's life, you might say, when that animal dies, its life experience at the astral level is basically a small component that the animal's produced, and it pours itself into the bucket a small container that all part of its herd are born from and contribute into. So the group soul is a construct that is found in the animal kingdom. And the more sophisticated the kinds of animals we are, the smaller the groups. Okay? Dolphins run in pods, wolves run in packs. Yeah? The more sophisticated the animals, the smaller the groups. And the more rich the experience, so the smaller the pool needs to be from which to draw itself. We human beings in the fourth kingdom have been given an individualized soul. We have a spark of God implanted within us that has taken an individualized shape and form. This is remarkable. Well, this endows us with the first choice in evolution. Until now, all the lower kingdoms have had no choice. They've been choiceless places. We've reached past the midpoint and gathered the plane of mind access to 5D, incorporated. With that, we've been given the privilege and the power to use our understanding to navigate further, to understand what we have come from, which this treaty serves, this talk serves, what we have come from, who we are, and where we are going. All these things are a mind-blowing part of our human destiny. Yes? So, in the animal kingdom, I would say the endocrine system of the animal kingdom is sufficiently evolved to be able to hold a certain percentage of the possible amount of feelings there, probably about 20% of the available emotional spectrum, or 15%, maybe 10% is feelable by animals. Not insignificant, okay? Now, in the mind, they probably have under 1% of their capacity to interface with the 5D and receive and generate thought, the animal kingdom. In the human kingdom, this percentage rises to 100% in each one. Suddenly, the human kingdom is endowed with 100% astral permeation. That means 100% of the astral world and all feelings are feelable inside our biology enormously. 100% of all thought, thinkable and receivable, is available to our nervous system in this body. Hallelujah. So 100, 100. With that, we have the free will, the power to determine. That's why we have the guidance systems of mind and heart and truths laid down by religions to help guide us in the way. Else we fall off the path and turn to evil. Religions have, since time immemorial, tried to warn us of this path, how to walk it, what we are. And yet humanity, in its freedom to choose who it is and where it is and what it wants to be, has identified with something other than its true nature. That will be its talk for another time. Just for now, our biologies are now being upgraded collectively. Since 100 years, this upgrade began, ever so quietly, ever so silently, taking place in certain parts of the world. Now it's accelerating to many parts of the world. Thanks to globalization, soul melds have stretched, biologies, genealogies have merged, genetic strains have begun to intermingle all over the planet. This great intermingling has caused a downpouring from the higher planes and energized our biology to be able to perceive more, feel more, connect more. This is a higher dimensional evolution that we are participating in. Yes? So we are the highest technology this planet has ever seen. Right now, I am observing an unnatural and probably unhealthy reliance on technology that we have produced with our minds that is external to ourselves. Computers, phones, all these kinds of technology, which is the source of myriad kinds of information that fascinate us, fascinate our minds, even bespell our minds. And if you look at the youngsters going with these, in fact, probably any age, but certainly the youngsters, it's just, you watch them walking along the road, and they've got their phone up in front of them. While they're walking, they're watching their phone. They're not even walking where they're going anymore. The screen has overtaken, it's become the primordial choice of all perception, where to put the mind into. This is part by design, by the designers of this technology, and part by nature. But the mind is fascinated with this portal, with this gateway that opens up portals into infinity, into anywhere. It's like higher vision, but still staying in 3D. Okay, that's why the human race is inevitably and unhaltingly fascinated and drawn to this technology. But that is like an addiction, like a child is drawn to sugar. It tastes it and it wants more of it, but it doesn't know that if it keeps eating it, it will become sick. Its teeth will become diseased.
and it will become unhealthy and sick. We have not yet reached that point. Those of us who see this have to warn those of us who are still enmeshed and subverted, controlled even, bespelled by this experience, for we must awaken out of it, like a child does when it grows up and leaves the sweets behind for occasional experience rather than a constant rush. So too, we will do this with technology around us. It is my wish to contribute to this today by holding the promise of an evolution that is taking place within us that far exceeds anything that can be done outside of us. Okay? This is beautiful. Internal evolution is a slow, gradual effort, but it is long-term in gain, right? It widens dimensional receptivity and manifestation, as well as increases the self-reliance. It increases the percentage of the universe we can incorporate, which makes life more meaningful. So, we are designed at our highest levels to husband nature, not dominate her. That is my final closing statement. This highest technology on the planet that you see before you, when you look in the mirror, see it again. Look in the mirror and see it. See the miracle that you are. We are the dawning of a new age of inspiration, the inspiration age, where we shall access the higher kingdoms in nature, the sixth dimension, and we shall enter as a collective into the fifth kingdom from this fourth comfortable home of ours. We are about to transition, and in future talks, I will show us where this is going and how. For now, thank you for being with me. It's been my pleasure to be with you. If you have any comments, please put them below. I look forward to any comments you may write, and I look forward to reading them and responding to them. Also, all your feedback is appreciated. Much love, and until the next time, Channel Sevn out.